Have you ever felt that quiet frustration deep inside? The kind where life keeps throwing the same problems at you, and no matter how hard you try, you end up reacting the same weak way? You promise yourself you'll stay calm next time, stand firm, choose better, but when the moment comes, anger takes over, fear freezes you, or laziness wins again. You tell yourself it's just human, or bad luck, or other people. But what if the real problem is not outside you? It's a weakness in your character that you don't even see. A weakness that Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca warned about centuries ago. Today, we're going to look straight at these hidden signs that your character is weak. Signs most people miss because they hurt to admit. If you recognize even one, this video could be the turning point that builds real inner strength. If this message speaks to you, hit that like button right now. It helps spread these timeless ideas, and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss a reminder to live with virtue. Let's begin. Number 1. You are easily swept away by anger or strong emotions. Anger feels powerful in the moment, like a fire that gives you energy and makes you feel alive. But the Stoics saw it clearly. Anger is not strength. It is the clearest mark of a weak character. When you lash out, raise your voice, or hold a grudge, you hand control of your soul to something outside your reason. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a fly in a passion is not manly, but rather kindness and gentleness are more human and thus more strong. True power lies in pausing, examining the impression, and choosing calm. If anger rules you often, your character lacks the temperance to govern itself. Every time you give in to rage, you train your mind to weakness. Epictetus taught that it's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. When someone cuts you off in traffic or insults you, the event is neutral. Your decision to see it as an attack is what ignites the fire. A strong character reframes. This is a chance to practice patience. Weakness pretends the outburst is justified. Over time, this habit erodes your freedom, making you a slave to fleeting feelings instead of their master. Consider how anger spreads like poison. Seneca said, "All cruelty springs from weakness." The man who yells at his family or storms out a meeting does not prove toughness. He reveals a fragile soul, unable to bear discomfort. Strong character absorbs the blow and returns kindness, because it knows true harm comes only from vice within. If your days are filled with regret after angry moments, ask, am I ruling my passions or are they ruling me? The deeper truth is that anger masks fear. Fear of looking small, fear of losing respect, fear of pain. A weak character hides behind fury to avoid facing that vulnerability. Stoicism demands you confront it directly. Sit with the discomfort, trace its root, and replace it with understanding. This practice builds unshakable calm. Without it, you remain at the mercy of every trigger life sends. Practical wisdom here is simple yet profound. Next time anger rises, breathe and repeat Epictetus. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Choose to see the other person as mistaken, not evil. This shift is hard at first because weakness loves the easy path of reaction. But each victory over anger strengthens your soul like iron and fire. Ignore this sign, and your character stays soft. Face it, and you forge real fortitude. In the end, a life ruled by anger is a life half-lived. You miss the quiet joy of self-mastery. The Stoic path invites you to trade explosive moments for steady virtue. Recognize this weakness not to shame yourself, but to heal it. Start today, observe one angry impulse without acting, and feel the first taste of true power. Number 2, you constantly seek approval or fear what others think. A weak character ties its worth to the opinions of others. You shape your words, choices, and even thoughts to fit what people might approve. Epictetus warned that if you worry about reputation, you live as a slave. True freedom comes when you act from virtue alone, indifferent to praise or blame. If the fear of judgment stops you from speaking truth or doing right, your character lacks the courage to stand alone. This habit runs deep because we learn early that approval feels safe. But Seneca reminded us that the crowd often admires what is shallow. Chasing likes, status, or nods from others builds a hollow self, one that crumbles when criticism arrives. Strong character knows virtue is its own reward. It does the just thing even if unseen or mocked, because inner integrity outweighs any external reward. Look honestly. Do you stay silent when you should speak up, or exaggerate to impress? That is weakness pretending to be caution. Marcus Aurelius urged daily reflection. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. A strong soul does not debate its value with the world. It lives it. Weakness constantly checks the mirror of others' eyes. The cost is heavy. Living for approval drains energy and peace. You second-guess every move, fearing disapproval more than wrongdoing. Stoicism teaches a more fatty love of fate, including the fate of being misunderstood. Embrace it and you break free. Cling to praise and weakness grows roots. To heal this, practice small acts of indifference. Share an honest opinion without softening it. Do good quietly. Each time you act without needing validation, your character gains solidity. This is not arrogance. It is quiet confidence born of virtue. Ultimately, the person who fears no judgment fears nothing. That is the Stoic ideal, a soul secure in its own goodness. See this sign in yourself and choose freedom over chains. Your true worth was never in others' hands. Number 3, you avoid hard things and seek comfort too often. Weak character runs from discomfort. You put off difficult conversations, skip the hard work, choose the easy path even when it leads nowhere. Stoics viewed this as a failure of courage, the virtue that faces what is necessary without complaint. Epictetus said you must be ready to lose comforts to gain freedom. If ease is your guide, your character remains untested and soft. Life demands resistance to grow strong, like muscles under strain. Avoiding it keeps you weak. Marcus Aurelius embraced cold baths and simple beds to train endurance. Comfort numbs the soul. Hardship sharpens it. When you scroll instead of reading, eat junk instead of nourishing, or quit when tired, you teach your character to yield. This avoidance hides as busyness or excuses. I'm too stressed. It's not the right time. But Seneca taught that we suffer more in imagination than reality. The weak mind inflates difficulty to justify retreat. Strong character sees obstacles as teachers and steps forward anyway. The deeper harm is moral. Temperance, self-control, weakens with every surrender to desire. You lose the ability to say no to impulses. Over years, this creates a life of regret, where potential stays buried under layers of comfort. Break the cycle with deliberate discomfort. Wake early, train your body, face fears directly. Each small act builds courage like compound interest. Stoicism is practice, not theory. In time, what once felt hard becomes natural. You discover joy in discipline. Ignore this sign, and comfort becomes your prison. Face it, and your character rises to meet any storm. Number 4, you blame others or circumstances for your problems. A weak character points outward. They made me angry. Life is unfair. If only things were different. Epictetus destroyed this illusion. No one can harm you without your consent. Your judgments cause suffering, not events. Blaming externals keeps you powerless and small. This habit protects the ego but destroys growth. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that others act from ignorance or passion. Pity them, don't resent. Strong character owns its role in every outcome and fixes what it can control. Weakness shifts responsibility to stay comfortable in victimhood. Truth is harsh. Your reactions reveal your soul. When you blame, you admit defeat before trying. Stoicism demands radical ownership. Focus on your impressions, choices will. This shift turns obstacles into opportunities. The pattern repeats because it's easy, but ease breeds weakness. Seneca said virtue is hard at first, then sweet. Stop blaming, start examining your role. Growth follows. Practical step. After any setback, ask, what did I control here? How can I improve? This builds wisdom and justice toward yourself. A life without blame is a life of power. You become the cause, not the effect. See this weakness, correct it, and watch your character transform. Number 5. You lack consistency in your principles and actions. Weak character sways with mood or convenience. One day you value honesty, the next you bend truth for gain. Seneca called this diseased mind. Unsteady, fearing the unfamiliar path of virtue. True strength is consistency. Principles held firm through all seasons. Inconsistency erodes trust in others and yourself. Epictetus taught the goal is a will in accordance with nature, steady, rational, virtuous. When you compromise for short-term ease, you fracture your soul. This shows in small things, promising to journal but skipping, vowing patience but snapping. Each lapse weakens the habit of virtue. Strong character builds unbreakable routines of wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. The root is fear of effort. Consistency requires daily choice against impulse. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself constantly to stay vigilant. Weakness lets drift win. To fix it, start small. Pick one principle, guard it daily. Reflect nightly on alignment. Over time, consistency becomes your nature. A consistent soul knows peace. No more inner war. Recognize this sign, commit to steadiness, and build a character that time cannot shake. Number 6, you harbor secret resentment or envy toward others. Resentment and envy feel private, like silent thoughts no one sees. But the Stoics knew they poison the soul quietly. Marcus Aurelius wrote that to feel envy is to admit your own poverty of spirit. When you resent another's success, beauty, or peace, you reveal a character too weak to rejoice in goodness wherever it appears. True strength celebrates virtue in others because it recognizes the same potential in itself. If envy stirs often, your character lacks the magnanimity to rise above comparison. This vice hides because society normalizes it. We call it motivation or ambition. But Seneca taught that envy is a slow self-torment. It burns you while leaving the other untouched. A weak character measures worth by what others have, not by its own virtue. Strong character knows external goods are indifferent. Only moral choices matter. Envy turns your gaze outward in complaint instead of inward in improvement. Look deeper. Resentment often grows from feeling slighted or overlooked. Epictetus said no one wrongs us except through our own false opinions. When you hold a grudge over someone's words or achievements, you chain yourself to their actions. Weakness clings to the injury. Strength releases it, seeing the offender as ignorant or troubled, deserving pity, not hate. Harboring resentment keeps you small and reactive. The harm spreads inward. Envy erodes gratitude, the root of contentment. Marcus Aurelius urged daily thanks for what is given, viewing others' goods as loaned by fate. A weak soul begrudges fate's distribution. A strong one accepts and uses its portion wisely. Over time, secret envy creates bitterness that colors every relationship and moment. Practical remedy is direct. When envy arises, pause and name the good you see in the other. Then ask how you can cultivate the same virtue. Practice premeditatio malorum on success. Imagine others thriving and train joy for them. This builds justice and kindness. Each act weakens envy's hold. In the end, a life free of resentment is light and open. You become capable of genuine friendship and inner peace. See this sign not as shame, but as a call to expand your soul. Choose admiration over envy and watch your character grow generous and free. Number 7, you make excuses instead of taking responsibility. Excuses feel like protection, a soft shield against discomfort. But Epictetus declared plainly, you are not disturbed by things, but by the views you take of them. When you excuse poor choices with "I was tired, it's not my fault," or "anyone would do the same," you surrender your power. Weak character shifts blame to preserve ego. Strong character owns every action to grow. This habit starts small, but becomes a prison. Seneca warned that we suffer more from imagination than reality. Yet excuses inflate small failures into permanent excuses. A weak soul avoids the mirror of self-examination. It prefers stories that justify inaction. True strength faces the truth. This was my choice, and I can choose better. Examine honestly. Do you explain away procrastination, broken promises, or unkind words? That is weakness avoiding the labor of amendment. Marcus Aurelius reflected nightly. What vice opposed today? What virtue acquired? Without this accounting, excuses multiply, weakening resolve until virtue feels impossible. The deeper cost is moral. Responsibility is the foundation of justice toward yourself and others. By excusing, you cheat your potential and burden those around you. Stoicism demands you treat your will as sacred. Excuses treat it as fragile. To heal, adopt the practice of radical ownership. After any lapse, ask only, what is in my control now? No stories, no justifications. Act on the answer. Each honest step rebuilds integrity like daily exercise rebuilds muscle. A life without excuses is empowering. You become the author of your days, not a victim of circumstances. Recognize this sign, drop the shield, and claim the freedom of full responsibility. Number 8, you are addicted to distractions and avoid self-reflection. Distraction feels harmless, a quick scroll, endless entertainment, constant noise. But Seneca called busyness the greatest enemy of a good life. When you fill every quiet moment to escape your thoughts, your character reveals weakness, fear of facing the soul. True strength sits in silence, examines impressions, and aligns with virtue. Avoidance through distraction keeps the mind shallow and reactive. This pattern deepens because reflection hurts at first. Epictetus taught that philosophy begins with self-doubt. Weakness flees that doubt into noise. A strong character welcomes discomfort as a teacher. Weak character numbs it with stimulation. Over years, unchecked distraction erodes wisdom. You react without understanding why. Observe. Do you reach for your phone when alone, or turn on noise to sleep? That is the soul crying for attention, yet being ignored. Marcus Aurelius withdrew daily for inner dialogue, asking what truly matters. Without reflection, you live on the surface, chasing shadows instead of substance. The moral toll is serious. Temperance weakens when impulses rule unchecked. Distraction feeds desires without restraint, leading to regret and lost time. Stoicism views time as the only true possession. Wasting it on trifles is self-theft. Break free with deliberate solitude. Set aside time each day, even 10 minutes, to sit quietly, review actions, question judgments. Journal like Marcus. What did I do well? What needs correction? Consistency turns reflection from pain to power. In time, silence becomes a friend. You gain clarity, purpose, and calm no distraction can match. See this avoidance as a sign to turn inward. Embrace reflection, and your character deepens into something enduring. Number 9, You judge others harshly while excusing yourself. Harsh judgment of others feels righteous. They should know better. How can they act that way? But Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, people act from ignorance or passion. Judge gently. When you condemn quickly, yet forgive your own flaws easily, your character shows double standards rooted in weakness. True justice applies the same standard to all, starting with yourself. This flaw thrives on ego. Seneca said we hate in others what we tolerate in ourselves. A weak character projects its vices outward to avoid self-confrontation. Strong character sees universal human frailty and responds with understanding, knowing I too could err. Look inward. Do you criticize laziness in others while scrolling endlessly? Condemn anger while snapping at family? That inconsistency reveals fragility. Epictetus urged examining your own judgments first. Are they rational or passionate? Harshness without self-examination is vice disguised as virtue. The harm is twofold. It poisons relationships and blinds you to growth. Judgment creates division. Compassion builds bridges. Stoicism teaches cosmopolitanism. All humans share reason and nature. Harshness denies that kinship. Practical correction: when judging arises, reverse it. Ask, if I acted that way, what inner struggle caused it? Then apply the same mercy to them. This trains empathy and humility. A soul free of harsh judgment finds peace in connection. You become wiser, kinder, more just. Recognize this hypocrisy, correct the imbalance, and watch your character align with true virtue. Number 10. You cling to past mistakes or regrets instead of learning and moving on. Regret feels deep and justified, replaying old errors, wishing for different choices. But Epictetus taught that the past is beyond control. Only present judgment matters. When you dwell on what cannot change, your character displays weakness, attachment to illusions instead of freedom in the now. True strength learns the lesson, amends where possible, then releases. This clinging weakens because it chains the mind to shadows. Seneca wrote that we torment ourselves with what is gone or yet to come. A weak soul replays failures as proof of unworthiness. Strong soul sees them as necessary teachers on the path to virtue. Examine. Do old embarrassments or wrongs haunt your quiet moments? That rumination steals present energy. Marcus Aurelius urged focusing on what is at hand, the task, the impression, the choice now. Dwelling blocks that focus. Deeper still, persistent regret reveals lack of trust in providence. Stoics viewed fate as rational. Every event serves growth if met with virtue. Clinging denies this, preferring self-punishment over acceptance. To release, practice the dichotomy rigorously. Ask, is this changeable? If not, accept. If yes, act. Write the lesson once, then burn the page symbolically. Each release strengthens resilience. Freedom from regret brings lightness and forward momentum. You live fully in virtue's present. See this sign as invitation to let go. Learn, forgive yourself, move on, and your character becomes unbreakable. Use these to expand your series. Each stands alone or flows as a deeper sequel video. Keep the calm, wise delivery. Viewers will feel the timeless punch. These 10 signs: anger that consumes, approval that chains, comfort that weakens, blame that blinds, inconsistency that fractures, envy that poisons, excuses that imprison, distraction that numbs, harsh judgment that divides, and regret that anchors, are not accusations meant to crush you. They are mirrors held up by the ancient Stoics, so you can see clearly what most people spend lifetimes avoiding. The pain of recognition is the first crack in the wall of weakness. Every honest glance at these flaws is already the beginning of strength. Marcus Aurelius did not become wise by pretending he was perfect. He He became wise by refusing to lie to himself. You hold that same power right now. Your character is not a fixed sentence. It is clay in your hands, shaped daily by the choices you make when no one is watching. So start small, but start today. Pick the one sign that stings the deepest, the one you feel in your gut, and meet it with deliberate practice tomorrow. One paused breath before anger, one honest act without applause, one moment of silence instead of escape. Virtue is not a distant summit. It is the next right step repeated. The life of quiet regret belongs to those who see the signs and turn away. The life of real freedom belongs to those who see them and walk toward them. Thank you for staying with me through this uncomfortable but necessary look inward. If any of these words landed close to home, drop a like to affirm your commitment, leave a comment with the sign you're tackling first, and subscribe with notifications on so these reminders keep finding you. Until next time, examine yourself, choose virtue, and live accordingly.